Well,
Hi, guys. Are fleas making your life a nightmare? Well, it's time to take control naturally. Welcome back to the Pet's Journey Live. I'm Michael from Healthy Paws Herbal Labs. And today I'm joined with two incredible experts in holistic pet wellness, Pam Roussell, founder of Purrrfectly Holistic, and Jenny Dean, founder of Floppycats. Pam is a certified holistic health practitioner specializing in energy work, nutrition, natural remedies for pets, while Jenny has been helping cat parents live happy in harmony with their feline companions since 2008. Together, they bring years of knowledge and experience to help you outsmart fleas without using harmful chemicals. And with that, you're going to learn tonight how traditional flea meds can be dangerous, how to eliminate fleas on your pet inside your home and outside your yard, natural flea fighting products that work, and how to prevent fleas. So with that, I want to say hello to Pam and Jenny. Hi, ladies. How are you guys tonight?
Doing great. And I'm so excited Jenny is here with us.
I am too. Hi, Jenny. Welcome.
hi. Yes, I know a lot about fleas.
Yes.
Well, that's why I grabbed you. I was like, oh my God, after I saw your live or your recording that you sent me about fleas and all the different things that you've discovered, I was like, oh my God, Pam, we've got to have her on together and let's dive into fleas.
Yes. I just found out about a new thing last night, actually. Cumin. Pam, have you heard of that?
What's it called?
Cumin, like cumin. The herb.
Herb, yeah.
Yeah, like instead of giving garlic, you give cumin.
Interesting.
I know.
Very interesting. Are there any side effects to that?
Well, it says in a cat to only give like 1/16 of a teaspoon. I don't remember how frequently. But of course I wasn't going to do it without muscle testing. So
right, exactly. Or pendulum testing.
Yes.
Yes.
And that's the big thing that has changed for me and helped me get through flea situations is what I've learned from Pam.
Mm-hmm.
What when you say muscle testing, what's muscle testing? Is that just like you trying it on yourself? No.
No, muscle testing is a form of energy testing. It's a way of tapping into the knowledge and the wisdom of the body to find what resonates as beneficial or not beneficial, where you can find congruence, like how to support the body with foods that you eat, with supplements that you take, medications that you might want to use. You can muscle test just about anything. It's fantastic. And that's what I do all day, every day is muscle test. Oh, wow. Is part of the energy work that I do. But you basically are tapping into the nervous system and getting which is a stimulus and a response to a statement. I use statements. I don't use questions just because I found that questions can be, your answers are not as clear or your subconscious wants to agree with what you're thinking and asking. So you might get some skewed results with questions. So that's it in a nutshell.
That's it in a nutshell. And what was the other testing you mentioned, Jenny?
Oh, I think Pam did, but pendulum testing.
Oh yeah, you did.
Yes.
Go dive into that. Oh, that okay.
Pendulum instead of using your body or your fingers to do your muscle testing, you're basically energy testing, and you get yes/no answers with your pendulum. It depends on which way it swings, and so it's just another type of testing energy to find out information.
Oh, beautiful! And now tell me, how long have you guys known each other?
Ooh, 3 years. 3 years, maybe.
Yes, I think it'll be 3 years in May.
I think so. Yeah, almost 3.
And so, did you go to Pam, Jenny, or how did you guys get introduced to each other?
I sure did. So I have a cat who had, I'm going to say, I don't really know medically if it's remission or not, but feline hyperesthesia syndrome. And it is where they start, it's also called like cat rippling or back rippling or something like that, but they start attacking their body. And so my cat, Charlie, was biting, licking, scratching. I think he slept like 15 minutes a day. I was nuts. He was nuts. It was a horrible existence, and I had tried so many things. And a friend of mine that I had met through Floppycats knew of Pam, and I was complaining to her over and over again about my poor quality of life with this cat. And she was like, "Why don't you try Pam?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm so done trying people. So done.
I've tried everything. I've tried it all."
Yes. But Pam offers like a 15-minute consultation to see if you like her, if she likes you, or if she thinks she can help you. Sorry, Pam, maybe it's not about you liking them. And that conversation went well for me. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to do it. I was like, do you really think you can help us, Pam? And she said yes. And like literally changed my life and my cat's lives.
And it was all about energy. It's always about energy and resonance and frequency and vibration. That is literally all I do. And that's how I helped Jenny's cat, Charlie.
Yeah.
Well, I've been fortunate enough to get a picture of Charlie, and he is just adorable. Oh my God. He is so, so cute. I'm just like, I want to reach out and just grab him,
Yeah. And he's not that kind of personality. It's so funny. That's all everyone's reaction. And he no, I mean, he is like a king. He is to be admired and adored, but he is not meant to be like cute. So it's very funny that he gets that reaction in people.
It's because he's so precious. I mean, he's beautiful, number one. But anyone who sees a big old fluffy, beautiful cat that's like him or ragdolls, I mean, they're just known to be like, well, they're floppy cats, right? You pick them up and they just go limp in your arms or whatever. They're supposed to be cuddly.
Yes. Yes. He's a different personality though, man.
Yeah.
Does he cuddle with you at all, Jenny? Does he hang out with you, or is he just like so independent? He's like, leave me alone.
He's pretty independent, but no, he's not about leaving me alone. But he has he's still very sensitive, always has been.
Mm-hmm.
I've had floppy cats for 17 years. And at the beginning, there was a veterinarian in Scandinavia that told me that Charlie has a crepe coat. And I was like, what? I don't know what that means. And she's like, it's a very sensitive coat. We love it here in Scandinavia because it takes forever to get wet. And I was like, well, that is right. Because when they had diarrhea when they were kittens, because I had a cat that passed away in June. But when they had diarrhea, Charlie, I'd be like dumping gallons of water to get him wet. But the difference is that Charlie has flat hair follicles, whereas my other cat had round hair follicles. And it was such a gift to give to me to tell me that, because Charlie is, like the sixth cat I've spent a lot of time with in my life. And the wind blew, Charlie blew. Like, I was like, what is the matter? This cat's like neurotic. So he's so sensitive. And then you put chemicals. I put flea chemicals. I gave him too many vaccines. And you make a sensitive body even more sensitive. And then you end up needing Pam really badly.
I was fortunate enough to have a live with Dr. Judy Morgan. Do you guys know her?
Oh, you did?
Yes.
Yeah, I told you. Remember when we first talked?
Yes. I reached out to her, and I did a live with her yesterday. And what you just said earlier was like so important. Is like you said, like, oh my God, I finally can relax after I met Pam. Because it was like that was like her main thing. She's like, it's not just about the pets, it's about the parents of the pets. Being able to bring harmony for both of them, and not just the pet itself, but for the parent. And I really believe that. And so, so thank you. Yeah. I had a really nice conversation with her, and she was just a sweetheart, and I love what she's doing as well. So,
she's putting a lot of good, important information out there.
Yeah. And, it takes all of us. That's why we're here. We're just here to pass on the information, let people know what we do, that there is a holistic ways of treating your pet and taking care of your pets. So, and I want to say hello to everybody in the chat real quick. We'll be getting to questions here in a little bit. I just want to break into this conversation a little bit and get going on this. We're here to talk about fleas today and what we can do, and, how traditional flea medicine can, actually be harmful for and dangerous for your pets. And And that was one of the reasons why I invited Jenny, because as she was talking about her, Charlie, he's, you know, a different type of breed, and he's got this different type of follicle and all that. And he's got this real sensitive skin. And so she's really dug into the holistic side of therapy for fleas. And, you know, and it's hard because we don't know how to get rid of fleas. And it's just like really, really hard to, like, you know, be tenacious with, you know, that, because you have to be. And, you know, Jenny, what you've shown in that video was like so many different things. Do you want to dive in where you started? Like you just mentioned that you did start with chemicals with Charlie a little bit, and then all of a sudden now you're with the holistic size. What was the awakening for you to say, wait a second, I need to do something different here?
Mm-hmm.
Well, when Charlie was about 6, Charlie's almost 16 now. So when he was about 6, I think it was our conventional vet that I'd gone to for like over 20 years was like, I think this cat is allergic to fleas. And I was like, what? Come on. And so that convinced me enough to start the chemical flea treatments on him. And he ended up getting fleas when I don't know, he was like 7 or something. I had never, ever experienced fleas in my entire life and was like appalled. Like, because I always thought of them as, you have a dirty house if you have fleas. And so all of a sudden I was like, what in the world? How? You do not need to have a dirty house to get fleas. That is not true. And it's very inaccurate. So come to the feline hyperesthesia when he's almost 13, when he's 12, and he started to get a head trimmer that I don't know if it is related to the histamine reaction that fleas give him, or the neurotoxin chemicals that I put on him forever. I'm not really sure, but I'm actually very grateful now for this head trimmer, because it immediately tells me if there's a flea present.
Oh, wow.
So instead of, you know, letting the population thrive and repopulate in my house, it tells me, he tells me right away by this little like head bubble. So for 3 years, he has not had revolution. But if I wanted to end Charlie's life early, I could stop letting him outside. It is such an important part of his daily routine and his quality of life to be able to go outside. Mm-hmm. Now, lately, I've been pondering my sanity around that, because he's outside for like maybe 5 minutes, but if we get a flea, that creates hours of work for me. Mm-hmm. So I don't know how intelligent I am right now, but there's a 3-step process. Whenever it's a 3-step process as a preventative, and it's also a 3-step process for getting rid of fleas. And you have to tackle the 3 environments, or the 3. Yeah. One is your pet, the environment on your pet that the fleas like to hang out on, your inside environment, and your outside environment. And for most people, fleas start outside. There are some cases where they started inside because they picked them up at the vet or whatever. So I start by tackling the cat, then I move to the inside environment, and then I move to the outside environment if there are fleas present. Did that answer what you asked me?
Well, yeah. Well, you know, and it's like, you know, like I want to dive into like all the different things you've discovered to use for the, you know, number 1, your cat, right? Number 2, your interior, and your 3, your exterior. Where, like, how did you start? Like, once you realized that he had these, like, you see his head trimmers and all that, and you're like, oh my God, we can't go that direction. We've got to go this direction now. What, you know, where did you start to look?
Well, a lot of that, like head trimmer stuff, like Pam helped me through that. I mean, his body needed a very serious detox. It wasn't just fleas that caused that. I mean, his body was on fire, more or less, from all of the crap that he had gotten for years and years. So Pam helped calm his body down. And I had also switched veterinarians to a more integrative veterinarian at that time, who, after we had worked with Pam, was like, wow, what'd you do to this cat? Charlie's alter ego at the vet is Chucky.
Mhm.
So all of a sudden he was allowed, he was allowing her to take blood and whatnot. And I was like, it's Pam. And since then, that veterinarian has like referred Pam to other pets that she's had a nightmare with. So it's been really cool and rewarding in that sense. I'm not answering your question though.
That's okay.
So I knew that neurotoxin chemicals, we couldn't continue on. And obviously they were, I mean, neurological problems, I can't handle. They freak me out. My mom used to have a cat that had grand mal seizures and so we of course got Fleas because Charlie is a flea magnet. And that's one of the things that a lot of people are like, well, if you get your cat on raw for at least 2 years, then, the fleas stop being attracted to him. No, not for Charlie. Maybe for other people, but not for Charlie. I don't know what it is, but there's something about him that they just adore. Like, mosquitoes love me and they don't like my mom. It's that same sort of like energy. So I'm experimenting heavily with homeopathy this year because I really want to change like the energetics in him. Because I think that that's what is causing this to continue on. Because this is year 3 for me that I'm constantly dealing with it. So, okay. Lots of things that you can try on your cat. Two Crazy Cat Ladies have a line called Feline Essential, and they make an awesome product called Flea-X that Pam sells on her website. And it is phenomenal. I have literally picked up a flea, put it in a Ziploc bag, sprayed it, and watched the flea die. It's fantastic.
With pleasure, right?
Yes.
So what they do is you can spray the spray on the cat. Unfortunately, with Charlie, he's sensitive to the fern ingredient in it, so I cannot spray it on him because that would just be easy, and nothing can be easy.
Easy with Charlie.
Right. But he is not sensitive to it if I dilute it, which is one of the recommendations on the bottle, to spray furniture or whatever. You can't vacuum. So I have like probably 3 bottles on each floor of diluted Flea-X ready to go. So if we get something, and luckily that doesn't hurt him, but it also helps reduce the population quickly because it gets rid of adults, larva, and eggs, right? Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay, great. That's great.
It is. And that would be super simple if I could just spray that on Charlie. Can't. So sometimes I use diatomaceous earth. When I first started using diatomaceous earth, I put on way too much. And speaking of Judy Morgan, she sells a product called Buckhorn. That's not right.
No, it's
Black Mountain.
Black Mountain dust. Or
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
Rocky Mountain dust or something.
I think it's Mountain. Buckhorn is like a restaurant in this area. I'm sorry about that. But it has diatomaceous earth, yarrow, and neem.
Probably neem. Probably.
Neem.
So you can use that too. I found that Charlie's too sensitive to that, so we're back to good old food grade diatomaceous earth. And diatomaceous earth is what, fossilized
diatoms that are ground up. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So what happens is when the fleas go through that, then they get their. I'm like closing my eyes. Like, does anyone want to listen to this? Because this is like natural flea control 101. So hopefully I'm not being annoyingly repetitive. But it cuts up their exoskeleton and dries them out, and then they die. So it's not a quick death, but it's like a slower process. And I found if I go more than a day discovering that there's a flea present, Charlie needs diatomaceous earth. So I don't remember where I found this tip, but I take like a little powder puff that you would use, like, to put blush on your face or something. And I just dab that in the diatomaceous earth and then dab it all over Charlie and kind of run it through his fur. And that seems to be like the most accurate amount, rather than like when I first started, I put a plastic bag over his head so that, because the idea is you don't want to get it in their lungs. And it looked like I was trying to kill my cat, which I wasn't. but you put it, I put it over their head and then like, rubbed it on their body outside. You can also put the bag on their body and keep their head out, but then it's really like, you're like trying to get it all on their body being confined. So I did the bag over the head and it's like 2 seconds. So not a big deal. I've also tried Animalio's. Animalio is a essential oil company started by a veterinarian. And she makes something called Kitty Boost. And then she also has Away, Evict, which are more made for fleas, but Kitty Boost can get them off pretty fast too, because fleas don't like the smell of it. However, Charlie is sensitive to that now because all of these products have been overused. So diatomaceous earth, and then also there is a homeopathic from Newton. What's it called? Flea something. Newton Homeopathics, and that helps like with the histamine reaction and the bite reaction and all of that kind of stuff. I think that's it for on Charlie. Yes. Then I moved to my house. So vacuuming is number one. And I've always hated vacuuming. So I just love fleas. I've tried to change my mindset to, you're getting exercise. This is a time to like meditate and reflect. And I've even listened to like books on tape, which I'm like, now I'm probably ruining my hearing, but no, I really try to appreciate the fact that I have power, that I can vacuum, because one year my power was out for 3 days and it was 100 degrees outside and we had fleas.
Yeah.
So I had to put diatomaceous earth everywhere in my house, and it was a cloud of dust. It was awful. Both of the cats had it all over them. So I am very grateful for a vacuum that works, and also electricity. Yes.
Yes. That would be too, right?
Yes. I have now proactively put diatomaceous earth under all of my furniture so that I don't have to move it. So I just have to vacuum like what you can see. But if I were starting over, I would move all of my furniture, flip it upside down, because when I talked to Dr. Judy Morgan about fleas, she was trying to get rid of a flea infestation in her house years and years ago, and they just kept coming back. And then she found that a lazy boy had a ton of collected cat hair underneath it, and the fleas were like all hanging out in there. So that's when I was like, all right, I'm flipping over every piece of furniture. I vacuumed all of it, and then I put diatomaceous earth underneath it so I don't have to touch that. I also have towels on. It's just funny because I wasn't raised like this, that you put towels because a pet sleeps on it. I mean, there was no reason to do that. But now I have towels everywhere. Anywhere that Charlie sleeps, there's a towel. And the reason is that if he slept there and a flea has fallen off, or their eggs or larvae or whatever, I just pick up the towels and wash them. So my routine is to go pick up all the towels, put them in the washer, and then while they're washing, I'm vacuuming. And then it's a whole thing. I know which plugs in my house I can take my vacuum to the longest, and it's ridiculous. And then when that's finished, I get the new towels out and then spray everything that I can with Flea-X, the diluted form. And that's pretty much it for inside, unless the fleas have been around for a little bit, like more than a day. Then all the litter boxes get dumped because that is a wet, moist environment. And that's why Florida and other wet, humid places have so many fleas, and New Mexico and Arizona do not. So I get rid of the litter box. Yesterday, we got a flea. Wow. So it was discovered very quickly. And as a result, I was able to put that Animalio makes a sunshine in a bottle. and I just put like 4 drops of that in baking soda, 2 cups of baking soda, stir it around. And then I put 1 teaspoon in the litter box to make the litter box smell repulsive to the flea. And Charlie's okay with that. He's not sensitive to it. Thank goodness. So I think that's it for the inside. Then I moved to the outside. Outside, there's so much. I mean, it depends so much on the, individual situation. So I have a humongous tree. My house was built in 1940. I'm pretty sure this tree was planted at the same time. It's ginormous. And so I know there's possums living in it, squirrels, and I think raccoons visit it. I've learned a lot about wildlife. I have no interest in killing them. They're not doing anything wrong, except for bringing fleas into my yard. So I've tried to find things that repulse them. Last year, one of the things that I found was a peppermint plant. So I put peppermint plants in each corner of my yard. And I want to say I shit you not, but I shouldn't be cussing. A possum had 4 or 5 shits right next to one of the plants.
Oh,
and I really feel like it was trying to mask the smell of it by literally just had of pooping. And I was like, gosh, that's like fascinating how he took care of that smell. Like almost like a cat marking to make it more comfortable smelling.
Yep.
Because I walk by the perimeter of my yard every day before I let Charlie out to make sure that there are no other animals in the yard. So garlic is another one that raccoons and possums don't like. And so I bought this very concentrated garlic called Garlic Barrier AG. And I use a pump sprayer like you would use for Roundup, even though nobody should use Roundup. That I pour a concentrated amount in, add water to it, and then I walk around the perimeter of my fenced-in yard and spray that so that raccoons and possums are like, ew, gross. I don't want to go in there.
Mm-hmm.
You can also do that with peppermint spray as well. The only problem with all of this is that once it rains,
you're back at square one.
Reapply. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
This year I found EcoSmart granules, which are little like pieces of corn cob, not corn cob, but they're really tiny. And they are infused with like wintergreen, thyme, something else. And Pam actually just muscle tested this for Charlie.
Was it neem? Or was that something else?
I think this is all essential oils.
Okay, that's right. That's right.
So I had put that down before or when we got our first flea on February 27th, and then it snowed on February 28th. So then I had to put it down again.
I have to say, you got me laughing because you're like, when we got our first flea, you're getting the fleas too. I mean, you've gotten so much time. You've invested so much time into this. It's just amazing.
Don't even, I mean, my family
money
is done. Yeah. Yes. Money. Yes.
Money.
It cost me not only the products to buy, but also, it really makes you start wondering, like, should I just put on the chemical? And the reason that I don't is because I could never forgive myself if Charlie had a seizure because of something I put on him. Mm-hmm. And my veterinarian has even said, like, Jenny, just do the chemicals. And I was like, do you want to do it? If you want to be the one that puts it on him and he has a seizure, then that can be on your conscience and not mine. And she's like, nope, not going to touch it. And I was like, see? Mm-hmm. So, it's insane. It has controlled my life for a long time, and I'm ready to be done with that, but I don't want Charlie to die. First Saturday Lime is another product that I put down. Pam, do you know what? I mean, it's lime, but like limestone or something. It's not like lime, the citrus.
I don't know.
Like lime powder. It's lime.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they use it for like chickens and.
Oh, nice.
And they actually use it in paint in different countries so that it gets that aged white look going down, like when the rain hits, it starts to create that old style of texture. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I've used it before in paint.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
I don't remember how I found that one, but that was muscle tested too to make sure it was okay. And we went like a whole 6 weeks last summer, where it didn't rain, which was not good for the farmers, but I was so freaking grateful because I didn't have to reapply anything and we didn't get any fleas because it wasn't moist.
Right.
It was lovely. There's something else that I put down. Oh, cedar chips.
Yeah.
So cedar is a big one. And Cedar Side out of Texas makes these little, what are they? Chips, but they're not really chips.
Is it made out of the cedar wood? Is it?
Yes.
Yeah.
But they're almost like sawdust, like a little bit bigger than sawdust.
Yeah.
And super lightweight, super easy to spread.
You just spread it around. And,
yeah.
Make sure you smell good.
Yes, that and the wintergreen smells.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Smells like a nice closet with fresh breath. Yes. It does. So those are all the ways. Last year I dabbled with some sprays and stuff like that. There are some natural sprays on the market. Wonderside, I think, makes one. But I haven't had a lot of success with those. And reapplying is a pain in the butt. So I'm trying granules this year.
And so what's your, like, okay, so I found the name. It was called Buck Mountain Parasite Dust.
Yes,
yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. So, and everybody that's in the chat right now, if you wanted to find this information, I did list it in the description. So you can find it in the description, or you can always reach out to Jenny at Floppycats or Pam, and they can, drive you in the right direction so that you can actually help de-flea your life. Because that's what you're doing all the time. I mean, it's like you're like, when we were talking and you were sharing with me about how much you're doing, I didn't realize how deep it was.
That's pretty terrible. Garlic is one that when you were talking, I just remembered that saved me years ago. I just couldn't get rid of them. And I was so scared to try it because, garlic's toxic for cats and dogs. And it was Dr. Judy. And that's how she and I started communicating, is because I reached out to her and was like, can I feature you? Because garlic saved my life. Got the fleas off of Charlie.
Yeah, I've heard that one many times. And I've also heard where garlic is so bad for pets. And I'm like, well, that's not necessarily bad for pets.
No, but it's bad if you try to feed them 70 cloves of garlic at one time.
Right. Exactly. If you're like,
that's what that study was about. That people out of context and said, "Oh, it's terrible. You're gonna make your pets sick. Don't ever use garlic." Yeah. So.
Well, and these people put this stuff out there maybe just to redirect them back to the chemicals. I don't know. It's like, why would they? It's really horrible what they do. When they, with all these different pesticides. How do you feel about the pesticides, Pam?
Well, I was just going to go over a list if you like.
Yeah, I would love for you to.
Dr. Judy Morgan wrote a really good blog a couple years ago. Actually, it's a little older than that. But I just want people to understand the side effects of these toxic flea chemicals that people just don't even think about, second twice, or they don't think twice about putting them on their cats. But I'm going to name some brands because these are popular brands, and people, again, if you know better, you can do better. So brands like Bravecto, Bravecto Plus, NexGard, Simparico, Simparico Trio, Credelio, Revolution Plus, those are probably some of the most popular flea medications that vets will prescribe. Now, she wrote this article, I think, back in 2021, so there might even be more since then. But what people don't realize that the neurological side effects and adverse reactions can include things like aggression, personality changes, seizures, disorientation, wobble or unstable gait, sensitivity to touch, abnormal vocalizations, urinary or fecal incontinence, and death. And some of the side effects of the medications can be liver failure, kidney failure, dry eye, clotting disorders, internal hemorrhage, skin disease and itching, vomiting, diarrhea, inappetence, which they lose their appetite, and drooling. So those are very severe reactions. And if your cat is having anything like that, you need to get to the vet ASAP because they need medical intervention quickly. And, again, I think people, like, kudos to Jenny for just standing your ground and saying, I'm not going to go there. It is a quick, easy fix, but it has serious risks associated with that. So if you're going to use that, you need to be aware of the risk. And a lot of times people don't even read the insert of those products. And I tell people all the time, if you were to do a Google search of each ingredient in those products, it would be shocking to you that they want you to put that on your cat or your dog. When it says don't even get it on your skin. Okay, don't get it on my skin, but you want me to put that on my cat? Make that make sense. It doesn't make sense. They're so toxic. So yeah, if you want to avoid all of the risk associated with that, unfortunately, we have to go to all the extreme like Jenny has done.
Well, just looking at questions too, you see here's a question that, or just a statement that, well, she says a question too. Heather's, her Australian Shepherd was having a history of seizures, and it's just like, and these chemicals do that and people don't realize that. And the other thing I find too, is like, we have this mentality of more is better, even when we're using these products, where people are like, well, if a little bit's going to do great, let me do a lot. And they don't really realize what they're doing, because a little bit's going to be okay, it's going to work the way they say it's going to work. But when you start to dump buckets and buckets thinking that you're really going to flush out these fleas, you're really doing harm to your pet.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt. I mean, you're adding such a toxic burden to their body. And if you think about how much they weigh compared to us,
they weigh nothing, right?
They weigh a fraction of what we weigh.
My hand. And
their bodies don't have the ability to handle that level of toxicity, in part because they're so small, and they just, it would be like us stepping into a vat of all that stuff. It would be seriously bad news. We'd be in hospital, it's so toxic. I mean, imagine if you were going to spray yourself with Raid. You'd be sick. I mean, you would absolutely be sick.
Well, I keep thinking of this way, and I don't want to forget about this for a second, is that I knew a lady that I met in Dominican Republic, and she worked for Monsanto's.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I asked her, because I've been always like, because I used to live in Missouri, and they would, there were so many chemicals they put on the farms, and there was so much stuff there, and a lot of it was Monsanto's, what they're getting into the soybeans, or, they're, genetically altering all this stuff. Right. Yeah. And I asked her, and I'm like going, and we're sitting there, and we were at dinner one time, and she wasn't eating her salad. And I go, well, why aren't you eating your salad? Because, she hears it, and I was harassing her kind of, and she strictly came back and she goes, I would never eat salad. She goes, I know what Monsanto's does to our farms. Mm-hmm. I stay away from anything leafy green or anything to, and I'm just like going, here, you work for the company, but you know that it's bad, but it's just like
working there. Yeah.
These chemical companies that with all these different products, they know that it's bad for us and for our pets. And like you said, can you imagine just, what, if it affects us, what does it do for our pets?
Mm-hmm. Yes. So, on top of the whole pesticide issue, they go outside and they get exposed to the glyphosate that we spray in the yards and the weed killers, and, to kill all the weeds. And the golf courses are one of the worst, most toxic places you can live next to. So they're getting exposed to all of these chemical toxins on top of the the over vaccination that pets suffer from. So their little bodies are just little walking time bombs for problems, really.
Now, Judy mentioned some. I'm going to jump real quick because I keep going back to my interview with Judy because you guys keep talking about her as well. She mentioned something to me yesterday that I was like I was never aware for dogs. Because I asked her about, what age does she think that pets should get neutered or and we talked about that and she said now there's not many vets that will do this actually for the males. They'll just do when men get their
A vasectomy.
a vasectomy. Are they doing that for cats as well now?
I think they can, but it's not commonly practiced in vet school. So there are proactive, holistic, and integrative veterinarians like Dr. Judy Morgan and Dr. Karen Becker who are trying to get vet schools to rethink how they teach sterilization in pets and teaching that technique because it's not very well known.
Yeah, I just found that pretty fascinating. I wanted to ask you guys today, since you're like in the feline world, it's like, that was news to me. I'd never heard that before. And I was just like, wow, that's interesting because it keeps it keeps all their other things intact, their hormones and all that, just so they live naturally with their hormones. And that's the big problem. So Jenny, where's Floppy Cat today? Is he crashed? Is he flea free?
Well, same thing about what happened what was it, last week? He got longevity today. So he's crashed.
Oh my God. So he's like, his system's regenerating. That's great. I mean, it's a great sign, it's like, it's really helpful for him. It's like,
it's amazing. Like, I'm like, I don't know what's in this stuff, but whatever. And when I first met you, so I met you because a friend of mine who I'd met through the feline hyperesthesia group was giving her cat eat or your digestion.
Yep. Eat.
I don't know. But okay. Sometimes I'm like, do I have the names of everything right? Okay. So she told me about you, and then I reached out to you wanting to figure that out. And she's also worked with Pam, so it's ironic. But I use a pendulum to see, like, when you and I spoke, you told me you're going to send, I think it was 5, eat, the anxiety one, the digestion one, longevity.
No more drama.
Yeah. Yes. Well, and also the diarrhea one.
The diarrhea, right? Okay.
Constipation, diarrhea. Anyway, so you're like, yeah, start him on this, this, and this, and I did not because I know how sensitive he is, and I started using just the pendulum to see, and finally today it swung to eat. So eat also knocked him out, but I gave them like very, very far apart. So he had eat like at 11 a.m. and then he had longevity, I think, at 5 before I left. So it's fascinating, but that's what he's 2 floors up asleep.
I love that. Well, I'm going to a birthday party tonight, and the mother, it's my friend, her name's Carla Estrada, and she's really big in Mexico. She's like the lady that did all the telenovelas and all this, right? Mm-hmm. So she's like this huge producer in Mexico, and her son he's here in Los Angeles, and he's a director and a producer as well. And I saw him probably about a month ago, and he had his little dog with him, and I'm like, oh my God, he's so cute. And he was like this little old man. He had little white whiskers and white eyebrows, and he was just like, he was probably like this big, maybe 6 to 8 pounds. He was just tiny, but he was like so cute. And I sat there and I asked him how old he was, and once again he was in his golden years, and I said, well, let me get you some Forever Young. And so when he invited me to her birthday to let me know that it was a surprise birthday party for her tonight, and he goes, you've got to bring me a couple more bottles. He goes, I can't believe how my dog's doing. He goes, he's like 5 years younger. He's like, it's just amazing how these herbs work. And it's really fascinating, how these, holistic solutions that are available now, and that's was my big goal is like, my story is like, and I shared this with you guys before, is that I was doing a fundraiser for pets, and I was designing it and for dogs. And it was a big celebrity driven thing in Malibu. And so it was there that I, back in 2005, that I first started my search for holistic. And that was way, that seems like, it was 20 years ago now, And so when I started hearing all the pet parents going, God, I wish there was something else rather than Western medicine for my pet, my dog, my cat. And when I looked, there was nothing out there like our line, nothing at all. And it took me 15 years to find Dr. Kyle. And when I found him, he had 4 of the formulas made at that point. And I'm like going, and when I found out it was Eastern Chinese medicine, I was just like, wow, I found it, and it's just amazing what it's doing for pets all across the United States. And even like Dr. Judy was so excited about it too. She goes, you've got a full line. I love it, and that's,
yes, she loves Chinese medicine. She's big into all that. Yeah.
But it's people like you guys, her, Dr. Katie Woodley, we know her, Karen Becker. You guys are trailblazers. We're all trailblazers here. We've like created this, mission in our lives to do natural holistic wellness for pets. And we are making a difference. And that's why I'm like so excited that you guys, are here on my channel. When you started talking about fleas, Jenny, with me, and you're like, oh my God, I'm about to, and then I did, my little research and all that. And I did that little post on my, on my YouTube, but it was like, I didn't really, you forget what you already know about the situation until you start to dig into it again. And, the larva of fleas, I mean, they live they kind of go dormant and then they pop up the moment it gets warm and moist, and all of a sudden, boom, you're infested with fleas again. And I'll never forget my first experience with fleas was at my cousin's house. And, and his dad was just, he was a mess. He was an alcoholic, and he was just like, he was just like, you walked in the house and it was just dirty. You could just, but I got attacked by fleas. I mean, I had to spend the night there with my cousin. My parents kind of dropped me off, and I came home and I had bites all over my body. My mom's like, what the? And I'm like, it's fleas. They've got these cats and they're just jumping. I was a little kid then, but it's just like, so I really honor what you guys are doing and what you've discovered about fleas. And that's why I wanted to do this show, so that people can go to our lives, they could go to our channels, and they could learn about all this information, because it takes somebody to dig into it like you have. And like what you're doing with energy, Pam, is like so beautiful. So when you're working with a client around fleas with energy, where do you start?
We figure out the root cause of what's throwing them out of balance from an energetic perspective. So if it is parasite toxins and parasites like fleas are present, then we figure out how to bind those toxins and how to support the body so it could move those toxins out and calm the nervous system down at the same time. And I did want to just take a step back for a second and just remind everybody that, Charlie's kind of the exception, because he's literally allergic to the parasite toxin of fleas. And it's not every cat is out there. And I think it's probably not as common. Jenny, what are your thoughts? I mean, I don't see a whole lot of cats that are as sensitive to the parasite toxin as Charlie.
I don't, yeah.
I think he's probably one, like my only cat client that is. Maybe there's been one more, so it's not a very common thing. But here's the cool thing, and this should motivate every cat parent out there. The healthier your cat is, the less attractive they are to parasites, and that includes fleas. So if you can feed them a species appropriate diet, if you can keep them in a toxic-free environment, if you don't use the flea and tick medication, if you don't vaccinate them, like your vet wants to all the time, and you just really work on building their immune system, keeping them healthy and strong, fleas are not attractive to those kinds of pets. They're attracted to the weaker hosts that they can take advantage of. And if you ever wonder about this, if you look at like an indoor cat or a cat that goes in and outside, that's super, super healthy, like mine are great examples. They go out in the backyard all the time. They are super healthy. They don't get fleas. I don't think there's fleas in my yard, but even though there's dogs like on 3 fences around us pretty much. So I don't know if they have fleas or not. But if you look, like I've had some of the neighborhood cats that just kind of walk around, and sadly they go into my backyard sometimes and spray. That's a whole nother story for another day. But I've been able to pet one, and they're just, they're not healthy. They're bumps all over their skin. Their fur looks terrible. You can tell that they have fleas or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So if we can keep our cats super, super healthy, then they are just not attractive to fleas. And fleas would rather just go find some, sicker, not so healthy pet to go live on and be a parasite on. So that's motivation,
Pam,
Well,
do you do anything preventative wise? Sorry, Michael.
No.
I don't do anything.
Man,
I know.
listeners.
I know.
It's okay, Julie. It's okay. You know?
And I'm out there.
When she's talking about these cats, I think they're actually knocking on her door saying, "I need help," and she's like, shooing them away.
No, I even walk outside barefoot in my yard when, summer months and warm weather permits, and they're not jumping on me either. So if they're out there, I don't think there's any out there in my backyard. And I think a common misconception for a lot of people is, oh, if I let my cat outside, they're going to get fleas. Well, not necessarily, not if there's not fleas in your yard. So like Jenny's case, she's got wildlife that comes in and out. So it really depends on what kind of access wildlife might have to your property. So deer have a lot of fleas, raccoons, possums, things like that. So squirrels, if they're unhealthy, they can have a lot of fleas or mange or whatever. So like even in the house that we used to live in Houston, it had an open lot next to us, and people would walk through there all the time. And I was letting the cats outside. They never got fleas there either. So they're not just in the ground everywhere. It really depends on where their hosts are, if that makes sense.
Right. Well, you said something earlier, Jenny. It was like, like mosquitoes love you, right?
Yes.
And it's the same thing. Like for whatever reason, they don't love me, but they love my husband. Like we'll go outdoors to a concert or whatever we do, and he'll come home and he'll be bit up. He'll have bites. And I'm like, are you sure that's not fleas or something like that? And he said it's been his whole life. But I'm like, going, well, what have you eaten your whole life that actually has an oil or a scent that they're attracted to? So I see that.
Yes. Because Pam, I would say that Charlie is healthier today than he was 3 years ago.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
So like, but the attraction with fleas hasn't changed. So yes, I'm not negating what you're saying, but for Charlie, I don't think that's the case. I really think it's more what you're saying, Michael, is the energy difference. And that's why I'm messing around with homeopathy. Mm-hmm. And Pam, I could just like shoot myself from last year, but a reader reached out to me and said what he was using a homeopathic remedy called Sorinum. Yep, Sornum. That one.
Yep.
30C, 7 days in a row, you give 1 dose. Mm-hmm. And then for all the flea active months, you give it twice a week thereafter. Well, I'm working with a homeopath in the UK right now, and I asked him about it, and he was like, no, that's not what that's used for. So then I Googled it, and yes, it is. And I'm like, mm-hmm. You know what? This is the one thing I didn't try. This is energy related. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go for it. It's getting the 2nd dose tonight. But last year when we did have fleas, it's swung to that remedy one time and they were off of him. So mm-hmm. There's some sort of connection there. So the gal that has the Australian Shepherd, I mean, yes, getting him on a species appropriate diet, off of dry food, all of that will help his health tremendously anyway, but might also help with the attraction to fleas. Like that's step number 1. And that's what I think why Pam mentioned it, like get them on the right diet, because if you don't have to go to the extremes that I go to, lucky you. And
Right.
then if you continue to have problems after you've gotten them on a right diet, then, you know, seek out, I mean, homeopathy is just so cool. It is so cool. So that's something I wanted to mention. And then sulfur also, I read last night, is a great one for a flea deterrent. And so oftentimes those two, how do you say it? Sorinum? Sorinum. And sulfur are combined. And then coconut oil is something else I forgot to mention earlier. If Charlie is a long-haired, very fluffy cat, if I put coconut oil on him, it would be disgusting. But my sister has a German short-haired pointer dog, and it'd be super easy to put coconut oil on him, and fleas hate it. So that's a very easy solution if you have a short-haired animal.
Interesting. Yeah. You know, there's another thing I wanted to jump to that Judy was talking about yesterday. And we talk about food all the time. You know, what are you feeding your pet? You know, and of course we got into kibble for a second, and we both want to just let it rip on kibble, you know, about how, you know, it's just, there's no nutrition in it. And it's just, you know, there's better options out there. And, you know, one of the things she brought up to me yesterday, you know, and it's so true. And sometimes I even overlook this, is like, people always say, well, you know, I buy this little can of cat food for my cat and they just love it. And she goes, well, look on the back and see all the chemicals or all the additives and all that. And, you know, when you read it, you're just like horrified if you really start to dig into it and start searching what those words really mean on the back of it. But she said the argument was from that one particular person she was talking about, was that they were like, but it's so inexpensive. It's so inexpensive. And she goes, well, wait a second. And this is one thing I just wanted to point out, because I hear that all the time, where people are like, I can't afford, or I can't, you know, spend so much money on food and all that. And that's why I go to these other, you know, easy options that are out there. And she's like, oh, well, how much are you paying for the can, that little 2-ounce can? And when you really break it down and you put it into like a gallon, you're paying so much money for their food that you don't even realize how much money you're paying for their food. And that's where you can actually go cook for your cat or your pet and start to do better choices for your pet, because, you know, people think they're saving money, but you've got to really multiply that, the weight, the ounce or whatever that you're feeding them, and multiply it by, you know, a bigger size. And then you're going to really see what you're paying. And by the time you pay that price, you can actually do different things for, you know, your pet. And one of the things she said about a cat food is that cats, you know, I've heard like cats don't drink a lot of water, or, you know, you don't see cats drink a lot of water. And I asked her this question. She goes, it's because if they've got the right food in their life, they're getting enough moisture from that food. You'll hardly ever see the cat drink water sometimes. You know, if you're feeding your pet the right food, even dogs, if you're feeding them the right food, they're not hitting that bowl so much. And you see that. And it made so much sense, because if you think about a dog that's just on kibbles, that's such a dry food. They're just drinking water to fill that, to fluff it back up and all that. So I just wanted to bring that up and just hear what your thoughts are on that.
Well, dry food keeps a cat in a constant state of dehydration. And over time, that wears out the kidneys faster. You know, if you think about it, our bodies are made up of about 70% water, and pets are the same. So in order to thrive internally, we have to be mindful of how much water we're taking in, because we lose moisture every day through sweat and just, you know, environment and things like that. So we've got to be really mindful of replacing that. And cats they're desert creatures by nature. So they get their moisture from their prey in the wild. And so if we feed our cats the way they're biologically designed to eat, then they are going to take in the moisture that they need. And then going back to something that you said about canned food, the cost of the cans themselves over the last several years have skyrocketed. So if you're feeding your cat a canned food diet, it can actually end up costing more than a raw food diet.
Right.
Just because of the cost of materials to put it, of the can itself. So until supply, and that was a supply chain issue and things like that. So until the cost of materials comes down, you are still going to see the cost of canned food being exceptionally high.
Yeah. I'm going to jump into Jenny real quick. What do you feed Charlie?
Canned food.
You do?
Yes. When I first started working with Pam, my other cat had a lot of sensitivities. He was on canned. Charlie was on canned too, but it was on a tablespoon of dry. And Charlie was a dry food addict, and he has kidney disease now. So, yep, that's how that stuff works. And when my goal was to get them on raw when they were 6, and that didn't happen. And I was like, there's no way in hell this is ever going to happen at 13. But Pam is able to do energy work and clear their like disgust or like their emotions around food.
Mm-hmm.
So it took, normally when someone transitions a senior cat, it can take like 6 months to a year. It took 2 weeks with Pam's help.
Wow.
2 weeks. It was awesome. And I was like,
I never thought my cats would eat raw food.
Yes. I was so proud. They had the most, like, the clarity in their eyes. Mm-hmm. Their coats were like fantastic. And then Trig, my other cat, died in June very suddenly. I mean, it was 2 weeks, but it was still very unexpected for me. And then in August, Charlie got into something outside, which later from a bioresonance scan, it's something that has to do with rodent feces, and he likes to stick his paw down a little chipmunk hole. So he had a it was either a parasite or bacteria that disrupted his digestive system. Mm-hmm. Consequently, with the kidney disease and everything, I stopped the raw because he wouldn't eat it. And we got back on canned. And basically, I don't think I'll ever try raw again with him because of his age and his situation. But every single cat that I have here on out will be fed raw from day one. You can do cooked, and I've tried cooked with him multitude of ways, and sometimes he'll eat it and sometimes he won't. And at this point, like with the fleas and everything else, I'm like, can works for us.
You pick your battles.
Yes. And dry food is that I was told at a local independent store here that dry food is the cheapest food. Then the second cheapest is frozen raw. Mm-hmm. Third cheapest is canned. And the most expensive is freeze-dried raw.
Yes.
That they sell.
Yeah.
So, yeah, dry food will always win out. But one of the things that always makes me just like cringe is when someone says, yeah, my cat eats dry food, but luckily drinks a ton of water.
You get it. That's why your cat drinks a lot of water.
Yes. And the reason it makes me cringe is because of everything, like UTIs, diabetes. My aunt had a cat that was diabetic. He's actually a year older than Charlie. He's still alive. He's an awesome cat. And so when I found that out, I'm very attached to him because he's awesome. I was like, please just get him off of the dry, get him on canned, switch him to like an integrative vet. And she did. And he went, the diabetes went away after 2 weeks because he was fed canned only.
Imagine that.
Yeah, imagine we're like imagine, yeah, because like kibble has no nutrition in it, and people don't know it, and it's not that, and we never say this to shame people because we grew up with this. This is what we know. This is what was put in front of us, and this was our go-to. But now that we're becoming more evolved as creatures ourselves, and we're eating better, it's like, why not allow your pet to eat better? And we're learning that it's, there's no reason why they can't eat better. There's no reason why they shouldn't eat better, because like they're just getting that kibble every single day. It's just, there's not that much nutrition there. And I always say it's kind of like, did you say Captain Crunch? Pam, were you the one? Yeah. If someone said it's like feeding them Captain Crunch every single day of their life, and And it's the same thing. I always say McDonald's, it's like, just pick one burger out of McDonald's and that's what you're feeding them that same thing over and over and over and over. What did they get? What are they gaining from that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, here's the cool thing. There's more and more studies coming out that are actually backing up the science that show how a fresh food diet provides so many benefits to pets. So, for those manufacturers who still want to tout their dry food as being the ultimate best, no, no, the studies are showing completely the opposite. So we actually have science to back it up.
Yeah, I have a friend that I met during the pandemic on Clubhouse. Her name's Norel, and she's in Australia, and she's a nutritionist. And I asked her, like, how did you become a nutritionist for pets? Because she started with humans, and that's how we all start. We all we're human first, and then all of a sudden we slowly migrate towards our pet, and that's the journey. And that's why I like to call it the pet's journey, because we all have a story about how we got here to do nutritional value for our pet versus just the kibble that's out there. And she said that she woke up one morning, she had this cute little dog, and the dog was just like do 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 do, and it was just like she couldn't figure out what was going on with it. And then something told her and here she's doing all this nutrition for her clients, human clients. She's like, you know what, maybe I need to switch him. I'll just do a trial. And she said within a few weeks, he became himself again, like when he was a little kid, a little puppy. And it was at that moment, she's like, oh God, we've really needed to take a look at this nutrition that we're giving our pets, and it's so, so important, and so like you're saying, part of that resistance to fleas or whatever could be a healthy diet. And I could see that. And now we know why no, I'm harassing you right now. No, but I get that, with him Charlie being in his golden years like that, you don't want to, he's got such a sensitive system. You want to keep him happy and healthy just the way he is, and just expand on that when you can expand on that. And you do that every single day. I mean, the amount of energy you put in for de-fleeing him is just mind-boggling. It's just impressive, and just shows you how much we love our pets.
Well, and he was fed raw for 2 years and still got fleas. So it's not, for him, that's not the problem.
No, it wasn't. It's not just diet. It's really just that overall health picture. But I have to give kudos to Jenny, because I don't think there is one thing that you did not try for fleas.
But she seems like she's tried everything. She's like such the perfect mom,
I mean, the list that she went through over the last couple of years would blow your mind. Would blow your mind.
Yeah.
Yes, I've ordered things from Australia, the UK, anything. I'm like, it's got to be out there. It's got to be out there.
Like even all the stuff for your yard and for your inside your home. I mean, I just remember you talking about the salt. Salt and baking soda. And
yes. Oh, I forgot those.
Did you?
Thank you for bringing that up. So, Michael, there's another thing. Like, if you're like, I'm done, I don't want to vacuum anymore, screw this. You can put diatomaceous earth down like I did when I had lost power, but I didn't have my Cuisinart food processor. My mom always called a food processor a Cuisinart, and I don't know, I was in my 20s and someone was like, what's a Cuisinart? So I have to think, what is it normally called? So I literally take table salt, like Morton's table salt, and then Arm & Hammer baking soda, dump them in a Cuisinart, and then mix it all up, and then spread that throughout on the carpet. It's far less dusty than diatomaceous earth. It's heavier, so it will fall into the fibers more, which is nice. And then it didn't bother my cats. Weren't interested, licking the salt or the baking soda, and it shouldn't harm them. But if you're worried, you can always do like a little test spot to see if your animal's attracted to it. But that's another great one. So if you can't vacuum every day, at least put that down, and it dehydrates the fleas too. Cuts them up.
Well, one of the things I put a little note here, you said earlier about his cat box being cleaned and all that. Do they really, fleas, do they love the cat box?
Well, I have these lit flea traps all over my house. And I have 2 by my litter boxes because, I have 2 litter box stations. So one's upstairs, one downstairs. And I was like, I'll just put it there for like a nightlight, because the cat that is the reason I founded Floppycats. He wanted night lights after an animal communicator told me that when he was like 18.
Aw.
So I was like, yeah, that'll be perfect. Those flea trap lights have the most bugs in them out of all the other ones, the ones by the litter boxes. So there is something about the humidity for bugs in general. I don't know about fleas per se, but
Well,
yes.
probably depends on the type of litter people have. Like if they're using the real sand kind, the real like, then it's probably more like the fleas that love sand, like somebody may comment here.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So probably depends on the type of litter too.
Right. So here's a
yeah.
question. You see it is equal parts of baking soda and salt?
Yeah. I mean, I just kind of, I've got a video on YouTube. You can, you know, slap that into the search bar, Floppycats baking soda salt, fleas, and it will come up. I mean, it wasn't an exact science, but it certainly gave me a break, which was lovely.
Yes.
You love those breaks, don't you?
I do. I had an interview with a homeopath who also told me that you could, that same sprayer that I was talking about, like the Roundup type sprayers, again, don't use Roundup. You could put diatomaceous earth in there with water, and then you spray it wet, and then it dries. So then you eliminate that like dust cloud putting it out. And I was like, well, that'd be kind of fun to sit there and spray in my house. So that's another option if you're looking for a way to get diatomaceous earth down.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. You remind me for just right now. I just had that picture of like, what was the exterminator rat with the hammer?
Totally. That's what I was like, I'm gonna be exterminator.
Right.
Yes.
You're like the exterminator, you know?
Yes.
You have to be. You really have to be.
I really want a disco ball to go live above you with all those colors. Can we talk about your background for a second?
Yeah, we can. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I really I want the party to start.
It does. Well, you know, I do have a ball above me, but it's not a disco ball.
Oh,
you would have died if I would have like hit a button and all of a sudden.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. Well, I'm an artist and I love color and I paint in colors and I'm very, you know, I love pop art. You know, you saw like the packaging, how it's like really poppy. You know, it's like I grew up, you know, I always like to share these little fun little stories in my life that I, you know, encountered in my life. When I was in my 20s, my mom worked on the show Love Boat.
Oh, I love that show.
And she was the stand-in for the little girl, Jill, on the show. And so she was on it for 10 years. And so her being on it and her being my mom, I was able to work on it all the time because they always needed kids in the background, but you always had to have an adult with you. If you're a child actor, you always had to have a guardian. And so she was already there. So she was already my guardian. So I was always on the show. And one of my favorite things I did was one year in 1982, I was on the show and Andy Warhol was working the show. He was the guest star. And I got to hang out with Andy for a week on the Lido deck on Love Boat, you know, on the set. And he talked all about the factory in New York, his art, how he kind of like grew into the art and how it all just became pop all of a sudden. And he was a super, you know, very calm and cool and just very shy guy, but really, you know, he looked at my art and he just really loved my art and he loved my, you know, the poppiness of my art. And he's just like, and he was a real big inspiration for me. And so it's like, that's kind of like where I, you know, kind of feel like I pulled in all these different, like people always said when I was younger that my art was very much like Peter Max and Andy Warhol mixed. And so I've been really fortunate to have this, you know, really creative, wonderful life. So that's why the colors, I just love colors. And in fact, I'm, you know, I mentioned to my husband, the surgeon. So I mentioned the surgeon, I'm like going, I need to adjust the lights a little better. And, you know, I need to like, you know, I'm always sprucing it up. And, you know, when he does his lives, we, you know, one of the things we do too, and you see the word Scientology in here a lot with my moderators. You know, I'm an advocate for kids just as much as I am for pets. And, you know, my husband was actually born in Scientology and it was horrific. The sexual abuse on these kids, the trafficking on these kids is horrible. And it's going on at this time today. So we actually protest. On my other channel, I protest on Scientology all the time. And so we just, Serge, when he does his channel, it's all got the pinks. He loves pinks. So he's got pinks behind him and all these different colors. And it's cute because slowly with other friends that are doing channels too, we start to see them changing their background to colors because it's fun to have color behind.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah. And your line is very colorful. And that actually brings up a point that I wanted to make earlier. Like today, because I used 2 different ones today, like it is so well done. It's such a class act in packaging.
Thank you.
And I now, to be honest, when I first went to your site, I was like, this is way too fun to be effective. Like this is like somebody's got a marketing degree here. Like this is not going to be worth a damn. But no, it's worth a damn, and it's fun. And it's classy, like the whole syringe thing. Like I'm like, and these are nice syringes. I'm gonna save it when the bottle's empty. It's really well done.
Well, so I'll show you. So we're talking about like the little clip, this little clip right here. I found these in France.
Nice.
Now I want to know all about that. Like why were you searching in France?
Well, you know what? When I first met Kyle, he had your typical little rubber thing where you squeeze and it was a glass dropper. And I hated that because it was glass. And I was like, that's got to go. I mean, if a dog bites down on it too hard, they're going to be swallowing glass. A cat may not bite hard enough to break it, but they could. And so that was the first thing when I redesigned the packaging. It was to make it more friendly for pets and just safer for pets. And so that's when I went with a dosage syringe like this, and they're hefty. And these come from France as well. The same company actually produces both of these. Well, this last year, it's so funny is that, we were running low. We go through so many of these, you can imagine, because every package comes with it. It's not like save your other one because you're not going to get another one. If you reorder, we always make sure because it makes it so convenient that it just snaps onto it and you just have it like that.
Yes. Yes.
But the crazy thing was like this time it's like, and I'll sell them. I had to buy 120,000 of these clips where before I just bought 10,000 at a time. But I was like, oh my God, 100, because they were going to discontinue it. And I had to convince them to keep the clip. And the only way they would keep the clip is if they did 120,000 pieces. And I'm like, okay, I'll buy 120,000 pieces.
Oh my goodness.
Because that's how important the packaging is to me, is like, it's just like, it's so friendly. It's so easy with the little hole in the top, the little orifice that has a little hole in the measuring. It just makes it so easy for people. And so that's why, and then I wanted to really identify each color, each formula with its own color. So that when people go to grab it, they know that they're going to grab the pink one, or they're going to grab the teal one, or they're going to grab the yellow one or the green one, or whatever it might be. At least they know. And, it's meant to create a toolbox in your medicine cabinet for your pets.
Yes.
It totally does. And working with Pam, and she knows this too, the supplement companies bottle and package their products completely differently. And it's all across the board. Some have the glass ones, some have plastic ones. And so I definitely think about it every time I use it. So thank you.
Yeah, people, they just reach out to me. Sometimes people are like, I lost my syringe. I don't know where my syringe was. I didn't clip it on that one time and I don't know where it is. I'm like, I'll send you another one, but yeah, no, it's like, it's been a real big success for the packaging. And, and once again, I was sharing this in our last with Pam, our last live was that, growing up, I was like this ADHD kid bouncing off the walls and all that. And my parents couldn't do anything. And then slowly, and just recently, I've gone through a lot of the tests and all that. And, they've now classified me as a neurodivergent person. And I never knew what that was. When I looked it up and I started listening to, the different books, and I'm reading through books, and it fits me. So I'm on the spectrum in a weird way. I've got this, I'm a very high thinking person in a weird way. It's like, sometimes they call it spinning. I never knew had a term for it, but like, you'll see me pause and I'm like, and you're like, where did he go for a second? And I spin and I start to gather all this information from all these different places. And so when I designed the packaging, I've never designed packaging before. And then I'll show you this. Okay, hold on. this here, this is our display for the pet store. And each one of these in front has a QR code and actually takes you to the product. So inside the pet store, it's like having an employee.
Yes.
That can answer the questions. And when pet stores look at it, they're like, wow, how did you know? And it's just kind of like how my mind thinks. And it's like I've designed some really cool art that people said, what engineering school have you gone to? And so I just love what I do, and I love creating, and it's interesting to be able to put this new piece of the puzzle that I've missed in my life, up to now. I mean, I'm 61 years old, and I'm like going, wow, now I'm learning this new side of myself. And it's pretty fascinating because it's part of like what drives me with my life, and just to be able to bring health and wealth to everybody. And when I design homes or I design art, I put my all into it, and I just come out with some really incredible stuff. And it's just like people just like, wow, how did you think of that? And it's just kind of like I was born with this gift. So that's where the packaging came from.
Yeah, it's pretty phenomenal. And I think, it stands out so much compared to other products. If I saw that display in the local independent pet store that I go to, it would definitely catch my attention. What is this? Yeah.
Yeah. And what I found is like a lot of we only go in independent pet stores, and a lot of our pet stores, they'll put it right up front, and they just, there's one pet store here in Los Angeles called Tailwaggers, and they've been carrying it for now a year. And they had carried another brand that was just like your, trendy herbs and stuff that they would put in their formulas. It was like, oh, what's the newest trend? Oh, we're going to put this in there. We're going to put this. And they'd never carried anything that was Eastern medicine really in their store. And they just, the pet store owner said, Michael, he goes, you have not only changed my clients' pets' lives, but you've changed my clients' lives. And you've also changed my employees' lives, because the clients are coming in and they're so excited about the direction that their pet's going in with your product that they can't help but share the incredible advancements that their health is doing for their pet. And it's just like he said, my employees are happy. He goes, I've never had my employees so happy in my 30 years of doing business. And it's because they know they're making a difference.
Absolutely.
So it's like, it's really, like I said, it's like I started in 2004, 2005 when I did the Paws for the Planet event for pets. And it was just like one of those things that once I get it in my mind, like, it's this way I think, it stays there until I find a solution for it. And, that's where we are today. And that's why I love having this channel. So I don't know if you were familiar with, did you ever hear about Clubhouse?
You mentioned it today, but also I think previously.
Yeah. So Clubhouse was during the pandemic, and Serge, he's like, Michael, why don't you go on Clubhouse and talk about your designs and how you do weddings or do homes or whatever. People would love to hear about you, the way you look at, design. And so I got on there and I started doing, rooms in the design world and the wedding world. And all of a sudden I looked over and I saw the pet section, and I was like going, oh, there's pets here. It was just, at the time we had launched our product a year before the pandemic. And I was like, well, maybe I'll go over there and just see what's over there and start meeting people. And that's where I started meeting all these people from around the world, because people from around the world were on this Clubhouse, and it was like a podcast system where you wouldn't see our faces, you could see our pictures. So you'd see me as the host, and I would have different guests come in from around the world, like this right here. And that's why I'm relaunching the Pet's Journey now, because it was such a success of bringing information to people. And that's why I do this, is because like we don't know what we don't know. And if we have a chance to be able to share something that we're doing in our life to make our life better, and we're doing in our life to make our pet's life better, why not share it?
Yes.
100%.
Yeah.
Because if we could, like, even like, it's funny because after my live yesterday with Dr. Judy, Serge and I went to the store to shop, and, we made sure we did not go to this at all in the center of the store. Our eating habits are just really now on the exterior side, the stores. And, Judy was telling me, she's like, she came home, she was at the checkout one time, and the girl at the checkout looked at her, she goes, what are you feeding? And it was all filled with, just greens and vegetables and all this.
Real
And
food.
it's
Yeah.
real food.
It's real
And
food.
so,
It's not processed.
yeah. And so if we all can just like do real food for ourselves and for our pets, or just, just be more holistic, or just, and it doesn't have to be like you have to change it all overnight.
Mm-mm.
It's just baby steps. If you just take that first step and just do one step after another, and just like for yourself and for your pets, we're all going to win that way.
Yeah.
We're all going to make a difference in the world, and we're all going to make a difference in our pets. And, I'm just happy to be doing what I'm doing. I'm happy that I can do what I do. And I'm happy that, it's like, I always say, like with Dr. Kyle, my partner, is that, I put it out in the universe for so long that I was looking and looking, and I looked at all the different CBD stuff when it came out, but it was all kind of the same thing. It was like that same thing where it was CBD oil and the herb of the month, the trendy herb.
Yeah.
Everybody was putting the same trendy herb in the oil. And I looked at it and I'm like, that's not what I'm looking for, And so I just continue to look. And I met a couple of people that were using those trendy herbs during my search. And when I saw it, I was just like, it's still not what I was looking for. So I just felt like the universe put Dr. Kyle in my life. He put him right smack dab. And how he got there was that Bravo called me. You'll love this one. Bravo called me to be on The Housewives with Lisa Vanderpump, to launch her pet foundation about the Yulon Festival, going over to China and saving the dogs from the Yulon Festival. And so I designed the whole event for the housewives, and I was on the show, and you can see me on the show talking to Lisa, really fun stuff. And it was her where, after that event, several months after, she had an event in the park, and there was Kyle with his 4 little bottles, and I'm like, what's this? And he goes, it's Eastern medicine for pets. And I'm like, what? And it was just, it was such an exciting moment because, he goes, I know who you are. Take it to your rescues you work with. I took it to my rescues, and, within days, the rescues were calling me up going, what is this? This works. And really the one they were using the most was our anxiety one, the no more drama for the pets that you were inside the kennels and just waiting to be adopted and all that. And the, separation that they were dealing with. And it was just working so well. They were just like, wow. And when I went back to them, I'm like going, okay, what do you want to do? How do you want to do this? I've been looking for a product, and I think you're the guy that I want to work with.
That's awesome.
And that started the thing where Serge and I started working with him, and we just created this company, and it's just been an exciting, adventure. And it's just like, I just love being able to help people, and that's what that's our whole goal, is like to be able to share what we do and share what you do, and what Pam does. That's my goal. It's like, I'm not like one of these people who's like, oh, this is ours, and no one else, I'm not going to have anybody else. So I'm like, no, I want everybody to work together, because together we make a team, and, it takes a team.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
It really takes a team for everything that we're doing. And we want to, why not work with a team, and why not share your joy with everybody? And that's why, I love that you introduced me to Pam, you introduced me to Dr. Judy. And I reached out immediately. You introduced me to someone else, and that didn't work out for whatever reason. And that's okay. It's like, but it's like, I love doing what we do. And it's like, and that's why I wanted you on. And I'm so glad you're here. You're like, I don't, what? Huh? And I'm like, no, come, be on the show. And it's like, and when I reached out to Pam, I'm like, what did you think? And she's like, oh, definitely. You've got it. Yes. And it was just like, it just, the synergy is just so beautiful. So, you bringing what you brought tonight was like so important for people, because you brought so many different things that people can try that's not chemicals.
I hope so. I mean, I think my response was, you really want me on? I'm not a success story.
No, you are, though. You really are. I mean, because you're a success story because of who you are.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Haven't given up.
I was flattered, and thank you, Pam, too. I mean, Pam, that's how I feel about Pam, because Pam has saved me over and over again with Charlie. And the reason that he's doing so well right now is because of her. But on your products, I wanted to mention that I had anxiety about, was it last week? I do not have anxiety very often, or I'm able to get it under control with my brain. But I was like, what's going on? Like, why am I so anxious? Stop it. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to try Healthy Paw Herbal's anxiety. And I kid you not, like 5 minutes later, I'm like, life is great. What? Like it worked like that. And I mean, it's so gentle. And then I reached out to you and I was like, well, I took some Healthy Paw Herbals, and you're like, if you want a really good night's sleep, take it right before you go to sleep. I haven't tried that yet, but I'm going to.
Yeah, it's just, and it's, you see how smooth it is. And that's what's so, because like when we get stuff from the vets, it's usually a narcotic, it's Western medicine, and it takes away your motor skills. Same like if we get stuff for our anxiety from our doctors, it's going to knock us out. It's going to take away our motor skills and all that. And that's the magic behind the herbs, is like there's no chemicals, there's no drugs, there's nothing there that's going to take away any, it's not going to drug you. And so it's just like, it soothes. And it's like one of the big, during the pandemic, out of the pandemic, this was such a huge seller because of the pandemic. Puppies were so attached to their parents. Their parents were now going back to work, and the separation anxiety that they were having, it was a game changer.
Yes.
You
well,
know?
and the constipation one too. Like, the pendulum will swing that Charlie needs it. And like, first time I gave it, I was like, oh God, this is not going to be pretty in the litter box.
Right.
No, it took like hours, and then he had a nice, beautiful dump, and it wasn't strenuous on his body, wasn't strenuous on me. Yes, smooth is totally accurate description.
Yeah, I have this one story, and we'll close out because we I know Pam's, her kitties are going to be bugging her any second. Yeah. Aileen hasn't jumped up yet. I haven't seen her unless you're.
Yeah, she was here just a little bit ago.
Okay. Yeah. I had a lady on the East Coast somewhere, and she bought the No More Drama for her. She goes, I have this little rescue, and I've got these grandkids and great grandkids, and they're just like all over this rescue, making them a nervous wreck. What would work in your formulas? And I said, well, you want our No More Drama. So she got it. And she called me up a month later, and she's like, Michael, I just have to tell you. She goes, that No More Drama. She goes, my little doggy loves my grandkids, my great grandkids, and they're just like peas in the pod, And this is how she was talking, right? And I just fell in love with her. And she goes, I have a question for you, Michael. And I said, what? She goes, what do you have for me? I go, well, what's going on with you? And she goes, well, I'm 83 years old, and because I've got these grandkids and great grandkids, they're coming from all these different states, and they all come with these colds, and I get these colds all the time, right? And I said, well, you know what, you could try our longevity, that would boost your immune system. She goes, I want one of those. She bought it immediately, and I didn't hear from her for, about maybe a month. And she called me up. She goes, Michael, she goes, I can't believe this. I'm calling you to tell you I'm not getting sick any longer. She goes, I'm able to fight off all those little colds that all my little kids are giving me, are coming with those germs. And there's something magical in these herbs, and these herbs are not new. These are thousands and thousands of years old. These recipes have been used for thousands of years. All Dr. Kyle did was reformat them and made sure that they were safe for our pets. And I get pet parents all the time saying, when are you guys coming out with your human line? And we're working on that, and that is coming.
Yay.
I take longevity, myself in a pill form, and I take it every day. And it's like, I went through so far, knock on wood, this season, I have bronchial asthma, and I have not been hit with a cold in my chest or a flu or anything in my chest. And I'm like, I was that kid that was always every year in the hospital or at the ER with, hard to breathe and all that.
Oh, wow.
There's something in here. I don't know what it is, but it's magic, and it's beautiful. And it's like, I'm happy that it's helping your little furry character there. He's so cute, and Pam's got some, and it's just like, and that's all I want to do is I just want to let people know that we're available, we're all here, and we can, and what we do is like, what's really beautiful is like when someone comes to a point with their pet and they don't have a solution, and we don't have a solution, Dr. Kyle will make a solution. He will do his research, and we'll do custom formulas. So what we have on our site.
Flea one.
Yeah. Well, the flea's an external thing. And it's like, you know, it's really, you know,
Yeah.
and it's like, and I've asked him and he's like, no, you know, there's like, but you've come up with more answers for the fleas than Dr. Kyle. Let's put it that. Okay.
Okay.
So, you know, what you're doing is just beautiful. So with that, ladies, thank you guys so much for being here. And Pam, thanks again for doing the series with me every Tuesday night. So if you guys are in the room, come back next Tuesday. We'd love to have you. And Jenny, thank you so much for being here today.
Yes.
You're welcome. I did want to mention, and this isn't like to promote my website or anything, but because of like I joined Facebook groups of like flea control, everything. I went through hours and hours of comments, and I gathered everything for one page on my site. So if you just go to Floppycats and search flea, there is a very comprehensive article of more things that you can try other than what I said tonight.
Yeah, and people, please do that. Go to Floppycat. I was just trying, you know, and it is www.floppycats.com.
Yes.
I'm just looking for that again, see if I have it right here somewhere. I put it up earlier. Okay, it is in my description down below. So if you don't remember that, just look at my description, you'll find it there. Ladies, have a beautiful night. Thank you so much for jumping in and jumping out with this fleas.
Thank you. Have fun at the fiesta, the surprise fiesta.
I know. I'm gonna. Yeah,
I'm envious. That'll be a lot of fun.
It'll be wonderful. It'll be wonderful. It, you know, with her son there and all that. And I am bringing them the Forever Young, so he's super excited.
Oh, good.
Awesome.
Okay, ladies, have a beautiful night.
Thank you,
everybody in the room. Thank you so much for being here. My moderators and everybody with questions. We really didn't get too much into the questions tonight because we were just blabbing away here, you know, and that's what we do here is just share our thoughts and our comments. So everybody have a beautiful, beautiful night. And I'll see everybody next Tuesday if I don't see you guys soon.
Sounds good. Thank you guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Thank you.